Hello, and welcome to Is This the Norm? Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Pandora, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Thank you so much in advance. I'm Rebecca.
Lora.
And this is Heather. And before we get started today, because I noticed something with our episode last week, just a correction that Kiko, when they put him back in the wild at, I think, around Iceland, it was Norway that he went to. So I will admit that geography is not my strong point. And if you'll notice, New Zealand is nowhere near Norway nor Iceland. So I think maybe I got confused because Laura had said that Dr. Visser was at New Zealand. Is that correct, Laura?
Yeah, that's probably what happened. We were talking about New Zealand, and yeah, you probably just said.
Anyways, so I thought I'd make
Yeah, they
somebody's like,
we have
you're
at
an
some
idiot.
we must have at some point said something about Norway because had I caught that, I would have corrected you because I knew that he was north there where it's cold. So we were
Yeah.
probably just accidentally saying it. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Human. Sorry for that.
Yeah. Bad information. But then again, I will admit my geography is terrible. Obviously, my education was lacking that area. I literally look at a world map so I can remind myself, and I'm like, I'm going to remember where that country is. Even in Europe, I get the countries mixed up, but I do try. I think it helps me when I go visit the country. Then I really remember where it's at geography wise. But anyhow, it is not my strong point. But today we are going to, and then also, sorry, I know one of our episodes, Rapa Nui, I wanted to do this a long time ago. I said it's statues, but I kept saying statue. My sisters didn't correct me, so I'm blaming them. But we were recording at that time on the west side, 4:30 in the morning. So I will say that I probably was very tired when I was doing those recordings. And then there was something you had said, Laura, too, in one of your podcasts that you were going to correct. I can't remember
Yeah,
which one.
I'll take accountability for it for myself. I won't blame you or Rebecca for misreading something or my geography, but okay, sure. Yeah, Heather. I think mine was when I was talking about prostate, I was saying what was I saying? Pro
Prostrate.
prostrate, like laying straight down. Hey, you know what? I was nervous. It wasn't because it was early, it's because I was sweating bullets. I
I
don't
know.
like talking and
I
people
know, but
think
you guys are doing so
I
well now. We've come a long way. Mine
feel
was
like
I don't know what. If it was I always wonder, was it the way we were recording? You know how sometimes I've heard that people, when they do podcasts, it'll sound like you have a lisp even, or when you're pronunciating a word, it comes out funky. I'm gonna not say that. I'm pretty sure I was saying statutes, and I think it's because of my legal background, and I do deal
right,
with a lot of statutes and not statues.
100%.
But anyways, it's just funny that please make fun of us. I'm totally cool with that. I do not claim to be extraordinarily smart or anything. I have my pitfalls, and there are many. Probably pronunciation and geography is probably one of my worst, but
But
I'm
she
working
will
on it.
blame other people for her mistakes. We'll just
Sometimes,
remind
yeah.
everybody of that.
Yeah, I will blame my sisters and my husband as much as I can. All right. Sorry, I'll get back on track. I know that people usually don't like to hear blah, blah, blah at the beginning of a podcast. So today I'm going to be talking about Glacier Park, and I'm going to mention some other parks also, like national parks overall. The reason I picked Glacier Park is because recently I went and visited Lora in North Dakota. And to get to North Dakota from Washington State, you have to go through the huge state of Montana. And I know Rebecca, that's her favorite state to drive through. So I've heard, Rebecca.
Yeah, no, they're not very nice when you break down in Missoula.
Uh
Jerks.
oh,
Bunch of jerks in Missoula.
Missoula. Get it together. Yeah, because I've always had really good experiences in like Butte and Bozeman. But the thing is, if you break down in Montana, literally you will end up in the middle of nowhere with no reception. So that's why I have a rule: I'd never drive at night, probably because I don't have good vision. And also there's true crime out there where there's this one woman that was driving in Montana that was at a rest stop and some guy murdered her, and he was an opportunist and found her, and it was terrible. Yeah, it's just a scary state to drive through, I feel, at night. During the day I have no worries about it. It feels safe. But anyhow, going through Montana, Glacier Park, which is, here's my geography, If you go up north, it's like kind of north. I would say it's not in the middle of the state, so I'd say northwest. And you have Glacier Park, which funny thing is I really have never gone inside the park. Not because I'm afraid of it or anything. It just we get to Polson or we go to Whitefish, and there's just so many things to do there because it's beautiful. You have Flathead Lake, it's huge. There's fishing, there's swimming, there's hiking, and just all places. But Glacier is a big one to go to. I just haven't done it yet. However, after doing some research on it, I don't know if I will, which hopefully this doesn't do it to other people. The deadliness of it is not as bad as we think it is, but there are things that I'm afraid of. But anyways, if you get a chance, I would recommend going to Glacier Park because just the area is just beautiful. The pictures I saw, it's awesome. And if I went with my husband, I'd feel safe because he's done a lot of hiking with his dad. That's what he grew up doing, going into very rugged places. So recommend it, but Montana is a huge state and it can be scary because there is a lot of wildlife and cliffs and mountains. Nature is always beautiful, but it can be dangerous also. Anyway, so the most dangerous national park overall, and this is just a subset of years, so this could have changed before this time. I just limited it to the 2007-2024 because that's the stats I had to work with. So North Cascades National Park, which is in Washington, is the most dangerous national park overall, which I think I've heard that, like my husband has mentioned that he's done treks there. His dad has done treks there. And then when they go hiking, they go for, I don't know, a week to 10 days. And Jed went a few years ago, I believe, with his friends. He can always correct me, but I know his dad's done North Cascades National Park. And I called it the death march with Jed because he would just come back just so tired. I don't know how they do it with water and everything. I think they have filters, but I guess it's the most deadly one. It has the highest rate of fatalities of 601 deaths per 10 million visits, which in the grand scheme of things, you're like, that doesn't seem too bad, but it's still a lot of deaths. So the total is 27 deaths in that 2007 to 2024 period. In the 601 deaths per 10 million is just a stat. There hasn't actually been 601 deaths. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that was the most dangerous national park overall.
That seems like a lot to me. That doesn't seem minimal. That seems like a lot. You don't expect to hear a lot of deaths at national parks, I guess.
No, I should say no deaths. Any deaths is bad. So it's a total of 27 from 2007 to 2024. So people might think, oh, that's not a lot. But to me, like any deaths is scary.
It depends on who died.
Yeah, true.
Everybody says that, like, even one death. Okay, it is life. Death is part of life. So,
yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway, like when you're going to these big national parks, is that understanding your risk. I'm assuming people understand that risk. I don't know.
Yeah, and don't do dumb things like go and try to pet a moose.
Yeah, don't do that. And I think another thing, we'll get into it with Glacier, is people just falling. That's huge. I never thought about that. Makes sense, though. People just fall to their death, which is the biggest fear for me ever. So the deadliest national park overall is the Grand Canyon. And from 2007 to 2023, there was 134 deaths. And falls are not the leading cause there, which you would think because you always think about Grand Canyon and it's so high up. Most are due to medical or natural causes, heat, dehydration, and sun exposure, which makes sense because it's pretty hot down there if you go in the summer season or maybe spring. And I think that's probably when a lot of people go. But they say to avoid those elements, deaths based on heat and dehydration, visit in the fall through the spring. So that was the one for the Grand Canyon. Number 2 was Yosemite National Park with 126 deaths.
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
Just real quick on the Grand Canyon. Not only should you visit between fall and spring because it's safe, but it's also really beautiful. It can snow up there with a light dusting. And so, yeah, I've been up there before when it was cold and it was really beautiful.
Oh, that's good to know. That's what I would want to visit. I wouldn't want to visit in the summer. I don't do well in heat anyways, so is what it is. Good to know. I didn't know it snowed there. Interesting fact.
Yeah, it's really north. It's near Flagstaff, which is really north. And
Right.
yeah, it's not gonna be like snow in North Dakota, obviously, but I have seen a light dusting and it was really beautiful.
Especially with the colors.
Is really high in elevation. It's higher than Colorado, like the Denver area, the mile high city. Flagstaff's higher than that. It's higher elevation.
Yeah, I've been all over Arizona, like, literally driving, renting a car, and it's crazy the contrast within that state from those giant cacti down south, excuse me, near Phoenix, and then Flagstaff, where there can be a light dusting of snow. It's a really cool state. It's fun to explore.
Yeah, I think it's underrated. That one in Utah. I think we kind of
Mhm.
forget about how great those two states are, which Laura and I are going to visit a little bit of Utah this summer. So maybe we'll have to come back and tell you what we think about those parks that we visit. So, yeah, with Yosemite, falls is the leading cause of death, 45 since 2010. Um, the falls are from hikers, not climbers. So, which I think a lot of us are novice hikers. So I could totally see that as a reason people are falling to their death. So the thing with Yosemite is that the pursuit of the perfect photo has turned deadly. So that's one of the things that they're having issues with. And I'm sure we've all heard that on the internet where somebody's trying to take the perfect picture and they fall to their death. I would never do that, but I guess influencers got to do what they got to do. And then there's been 17 drownings in Yosemite. It's another thing you got to watch out for. And then number 3, Rebecca, is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. They get about they get about 14 million visitors a year, which increases the chances of injuries and fatalities. So it's like with these national parks, it's like a chicken or egg. Is it because there's so many people that visit, or is it because they're dangerous? I'm probably a combination thereof. So they've
Yeah,
had
I've heard the Great Smoky Mountains also is, like, a hot spot for, like, murderers and stuff because it is so remote and high
mm,
traffic.
yeah,
I don't
it
know if
is have
that's true
yeah, I did not get into that because I didn't get into the murder portion, which,
for sure.
somebody wants us to do a podcast like, okay, Heather, you told me about the natural or possibilities of visiting these parks, what's going to happen and how you die. And if we wanted to do a murder one, I would be totally into that. Just let me know. I know that's something we haven't really, because there's so many podcasts out there for true crime, but
Right.
we could definitely I wouldn't mind doing an extension of this. Just let us know. So yeah, with the Great Smoky Mountains, there's been 92 deaths over 15 years. The funny thing with this one, not funny like haha, but interesting, is that most of them are by motor vehicle crash, 37 of those. And this is due to the fact that there's 380 miles of roads crisscrossing all this
Mm.
crowded park. And then so motor vehicle accidents happen. It happens at Glacier Park too, not at that higher rate that's happening at the Smoky Mountains, but I thought that was interesting. And their advice, what's
East
that?
Coast. East Coast population, right?
Exactly. And so I don't know what kind of crashes or people falling off of cliffs. I didn't really look into that, but I'm sure there's all kinds of reasons why that's happening. But mainly it's because there's so many roads that people are driving on in the national park.
And they're
I guess
forest roads. It's not like they're like freeways
right.
and highways.
So just visit during the slower season is their advice on that one. And then deadliest national parks by percentage of visitors. So that's a little different than deadliest national parks overall, is Denali. It's the most visited with 51 deaths compared to the Smoky Mountains Park. 9.8 deaths per million visitors is what the statistic is. And it is the wildest park in our country, which makes sense because it's Alaska. There's so much dense uh, forest up in Alaska. It's beautiful. The trees are huge. It's amazing to go to Alaska because it's like you're at the sea or the ocean and there's like a forest right there, like just trees and forest to see. Because usually you go to a beach and it's like sand, and Alaska is just one of those rugged areas where it's just mountains and trees and ruggedness, and then the ocean's right there. So it's a very interesting experience when you go there, along with all the glaciers and stuff like that, which are unfortunately melting.
And then Mount McKinley is in that national forest, and it's the highest peak in North America at 20,000 feet.
Hmm.
Just
Wow.
FYI, cool. I
Oh,
love that name, Mount McKinley. I think it's really beautiful.
yeah. Yeah, that is a pretty name. And I think that you guys probably know this, but the top cause of death there is the environmental aspects of Alaska. It gets all kinds of different weather. Only one lethal bear attack in its 105-year history. So I thought that was surprising. The one thing with these parks is they're like, oh, there's not a lot of deaths by bears, but they don't really tell you how many attacks happen where people survive. So just remember that, yes, maybe there's only one death by a bear in the last 105 years, but attacks are happening, and I'll get into that in a minute.
What kind of bear? Are we talking polar bears?
In Alaska, no, I was grizzly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I gathered from my research. And this second one is the deadliest national parks by percentage of visitors. I would have never guessed this one is Virgin Islands. So there's
What?
6 deaths per million visitors. Leading cause is drowning, which makes sense because
Oh, yeah.
a lot of water. And most of the traffic they're getting there are from cruise ships, so that might be another influence of why it's the most deadly.
Drunkenness.
Yeah, people get drunk. Who knows? Fall off. I don't know. I didn't get into why these people are dying, but it's drowning is the leading cause, and which makes sense with the combination of cruise ships coming in. And then number 3 is Big Bend National Park, and that's Western Texas. And that's 5.8 deaths per million. Same thing, environmental causes is usually the cause of death, extreme heat, and drastic weather changes on the turn of a dime, which makes sense if you're somewhere there the weather changes and you didn't prepare for it. That's probably not good.
Yeah,
And
I had a lot of coworkers that worked in Texas when I worked remotely, and they were just constantly getting bombarded by storms all the time, like just year round.
That's the bad thing about those southern states is like, yeah, maybe the weather is warmer, but you got these crazy storms coming in all the time.
Not South Carolina.
You're inland quite a bit.
Exactly.
It did snow there last year,
I seem
didn't
to
it?
remember a hurricane not too long ago, Rebecca, where you
Yeah,
nowhere
that
for a
was
week.
very abnormal though. No, that hadn't happened for 100 years, once every 100-year storm. So, that we got that out of the way, now we're good.
What do you think?
No, I know. It's not gonna happen again.
Rebecca can predict the weather for the next 100 years.
Yeah, the meteorologist can't, so.
No,
I was just gonna say, yeah, anyone can predict the weather because nobody really knows what's coming.
that's ridiculous. All right, so to Glacier Park we go now that you guys got some statistics about other parks. So it is only number 33 on the list for deaths. And that's for the time frame of 2007 to 2024. So they have 11 deaths per 10 million visits, with that total being 47 over that period of 2007 to 2024. And then, according to the book Death and Survival in Glacier Park by C.W. Guthrie and Dan and Ann Fagre, I think is how you say it, or it's Fagre. I'm not sure how to say that. At least a dozen people have gone missing and were never found since 1913. And I'll go over the one that kind of was highlighted in most areas that I found was this small group, as they call them, the lost and never found, which is a designation for those who vanished in Glacier and were never found or heard from again, leaving their disappearances to speculation. Because the park spans over 1 million acres of steep rock formations, cliffs, and dense vegetation, discovering missing individuals is exceptionally difficult once the immediate trail clues run dry. So fatalities in the park generally correlate with natural hazards, drownings in turbulent creeks, exposure to sudden storms, falls, and then grizzly bear encounters. So we'll get into the grizzly bear encounters in a little bit. So in 2022, they were tied for the record deaths in a park. So there is, like, if you go year by year, you might say that Glacier National Park is the most dangerous and deadly. It's just if you do it over a 15 to 20 year period, they're number 33. So I think you and I, Laura, were having this discussion where you're like, I think it's the deadliest national park. And so when I was doing my research, I was like, not really. But then I found this and where it said it was 2022 is tied for record deaths in a park. And I'm like, I bet that's where you probably got that information. So
Yeah,
if you go year
probably.
by year, it probably is one of the most deadly parks. So this year in Glacier National Park in 2022, it was tied with 3 other parks for the most recorded fatalities, which included natural causes, according to the park spokesperson. So I feel like natural causes, like they kind of group even the people that just don't come back. They're like, oh, it's natural cause, because they really don't know why, unless they find them like that they fell off a cliff and they're like, they fell off a cliff. So then they know that they fell to their death. So people that they just find could be dehydration. It could be because they got lost. So then nature killed them because they never got food or water or whatever. The leading year of deaths at Glacier was in 1925, where they had 4 drownings, 2 exposures, and 1 fall. In addition to 1925, the years that tie with this one for deaths counting natural causes is 1969 and 1981. And this was according to that none of them include bear attacks. So you see this theme with these parks where they're like, oh, it's not the bears, but there's all these attacks that are happening all the time. So I'm not sure why we concentrate on the bears if it's just this preconceived notion that we all think it's always bears. But there is a lot of attacks going on. So one of the worst ones that I found as far as deaths is in 1969. This was the day after Christmas. The park experienced a historic tragedy when an avalanche took out 5 climbers at once on Mount Cleveland. The climbers were Jerry Kanzler, 18. He'd grown up in Columbia Falls and had climbed extensively in Glacier and elsewhere with his father and older brother. He was currently at the Montana State University in 1969, which is in Bozeman. And then the second individual was Jim Anderson, also 18, was from Big Fork, and he was an MSU student with a love for climbing who had twice summited Cleveland in warmer months. So this is in the Christmas, December time when these climbers went and climbed at Glacier Park. And then Mark Leviton, a 20-year-old from Helena, also attending MSU, had reached the top of Wyoming Grand Teton before. And then the remaining 2, Claire Pogreba and Ray Martin, both 22, were the eldest of the group and students at Montana Tech in Butte, where they started a mountaineering club and were regarded as the best climbers in the club. So these 5 individuals, all very young, very sad, they're like, okay, let's go do this in December. We got time off from college. They get all their stuff ready. They're all very adept in climbing. They've done it a lot. So for them, they're like, this is just something fun to do in our time off from college, right? So this band of intrepid college students and mountain climbers from Butte, Helena, Bozeman, and Big Fork, they left their families and the holidays behind and drove north to Glacier with a lofty goal to scale Mount Cleveland. So maybe I'll put this picture on for the podcast on our social media. But you look at this mountain, it's hard when you see it in a picture, it probably doesn't do it justice, but it looks like a sheer cliff. It's like a bold in, but it just looks very sharp and jagged. And I'm like, holy moly, I can't believe they were wanting to do that in the Christmas holidays and winter. And so they were going to scale this Mount Cleveland via its massive north face during the midst of winter. If they had some plan B, so if conditions precluded the route they wanted to take, the plan B was to climb the mountain's more accessible west slope. Either line would be a first in the record during this time for Glacier Park. There was no record of anyone reaching Cleveland summit via the north face and the steep avalanche-prone mountain summit by any route in the depth of winter. So this was like never had happened before, and these gentlemen were going to go do this. As they made their way north to Waterton, the 5 students stopped to share their plan with Bob Frosson, which was Glacier's district ranger at the time in St. Mary. And he was a no-nonsense World War II veteran and experienced climbers he was an experienced climber and had served in the Army. And he was in the Army's famed 10th Mountain Division. He was very knowledgeable in climbing also. The ranger checked the men's gear and issued warnings about Glacier's unpredictable weather, the slim odds of rescue if they got in trouble, and then also let them know about Cleveland's reputation for avalanches and a recent storm that had left the mountain coated with ice. And so after these gentlemen went missing, he was interviewed, Mr. Frosson was, and he said, I talked to them a long time about the dangers. So I think even he was like, okay, be careful. And they're young men, you're not going to talk them out of something once they get it in their head and they want to do it. So the 5 climbers arrived at the Waterton town site on December 27th, and they hired a man with a boat to ferry them and their gear up to the Lake Goat Haunt. The boat driver, Alf Baker, dropped the 5 men off. He was the last to see them alive. And I always wondered, I didn't find anything on this Alf Baker, if he was like, you guys really want to do this? Didn't find anything in the research on what those conversations he may have had when he was ferrying them over to where they were going to start their trek. The first hint that the climbers might have found trouble came just 2 days later when Bud Anderson, an older brother of the Big Fork climber, flew a private plane around Cleveland to check their progress. He didn't spot the young men. He did see tracks, maybe human, maybe mountain goat, on the mountain's west slope. He also saw signs of a fresh avalanche near the tracks. So that was the first warning that something went awry. Almost 2 weeks after their sons and brothers were last seen, they suspended the search and had to wait till spring when some of the snow on Cleveland had melted. So the conditions were just so bad, they just couldn't go up there and try to find him because it just would have ended up in more deaths, right? It's kind of like the person that jumps into the water to save the drowning person and then they both drown. They didn't recover. So remember, this happened in December of 1969. They didn't recover the climbers until May and July of 1970. And so I have this picture I found of 4 out of the 5 gentlemen, and I can put this on the post too. It's just a beautiful picture of them. It just broke my heart. They're just babies. You can tell that they're somewhere high up on a mountain or cliff, and they're all wearing their helmets. It looks like they have their gear on. They look like they're safe climbers. They know what they're doing. And it's just a really beautiful picture of them. Obviously, one of them took the picture because there was 5 and there's only 4 in the picture. So the picture is the one of Claire Pogreba, Jim Kanzler, Ray Martin, and Jerry Kanzler. And they were atop of the Citadel Spire in Glacier Park. The date, they don't know what it is, but it was the photo of one of the brothers, Jamie Kanzler, because they found the camera. When they did go searching, when they found these gentlemen, they found the camera, so they were able to develop this picture. It's like a beautiful picture because it's like there's barely any clouds. It's a blue sky. It looks they're not wearing a lot of. One of them doesn't even have a shirt on. So this might have been like a different picture on a different time. I didn't really get I think this is from the photo that when they developed it, but I was just surprised because one of the gentlemen doesn't even have a shirt on. Who knows? Boys will be boys, right? So they found them one by one during the spring and summer. So I'm assuming they just got buried by the avalanche is what it sounds like. It's just sad that the parents had to sit there knowing their children were on this mountain and had to wait till springtime. That'd be a terrible feeling. So my condolences to the family to this day. And then some more type of situation where some brothers were hiking was in 1924. So this was Joseph and William was their names. What was their last name? I forgot. So sorry. Oh, I feel terrible now. I don't remember where I put their last name. I might come up to it again in my write-up. So anyhow, they had been exploring Glacier for more than a week, hiking and exploring places like Iceberg Lake and Crater Lake and traveling by car, boat, and horseback, just kind of checking it out before they decided on their big adventure to hike 20 miles from Lewis Hotel, which is now Lake McDonald Lodge. And they boarded the Great Northern Railroad Oriental Limited to Chicago once they completed the trek was what their plan was. So they were just going to get it and then they were going to go back to Chicago. So this happened in August of 1924. So Joseph, before they went on their trek, wrote to his mother, "We are enjoying ourselves very much and taking no chances of injuring ourselves." That closing letter was his last letter with an assurance before they left. 4 days later, on August 24th, the brothers started off on their adventure from Granite Park Chalet. Am I saying that right? Is it Chalet?
LA, I think.
Chalet, or is it Chalet? I heard it both ways.
Maybe it is both ways. Maybe you're fine either way.
Yeah. All right. So if I'm wrong, sorry, but that's what I know it as. They disappeared into the forest after they took off. They were last seen 10 miles from their destination at Lewis Hotel at Lake McDonald, dressed in, this is in quotations, dressed in hiking knickers and smiling. But when neither boy stepped off the train to greet their mother on September 1st, the 2-year search for the boys began. So it's even longer than the one in 1969. So I thought that was really like, oh, the poor mom. 13 rangers, 2 famous Native American guides, and 7 mountaineers searched for 2 weeks. Not a trace of the brothers were found. And it even gets more into it. And then the Interior Secretary, F.M. Goodwin, reported on September 16th of 1924, there never has been a search in the national parks conducted with more vigor and effort. The FBI even got involved. J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI at the time, there was just no clue of the men's disappearance and was ever found. They had just simply vanished. While many believe, Whiteheads, that's their last name. I knew I'd find it. So this is Joseph and William Whitehead that were never found when they went on their trek. So while many believe the Whiteheads had come to a tragic but natural end, others suspected foul play. So this kind of gets into the true crime. They're not sure. I don't know why there would be foul play. They're thinking that it was perhaps at the hands of bootleggers at the time. Dora Whitehead, which is their mom, believed the conjecture there was foul play. She wrote to the Secretary of the Interior, this is in quotations, I want my 2 sons dead or alive. Surely I'm not asking too much. They belong to me. I have a right to have them. My 2 sons were murdered or kidnapped in a national park, and I am pleading with the government of the United States to find them. I just think my heart just goes out to this mom. I couldn't imagine both your boys just gone. Despite the exhaustive effort and probe into looking into what could have happened, the government never did find them. And from that point on, C.W. Booklets writes in Man and Glacier, the job of the park's rangers forever shifted after that time. So things literally started changing on how they were going to conduct searches. The biggest thing was protecting, rescuing, or finding visitors became a full-time occupation after this of the ranger force, and at least as important as preserving the natural features of the park. So I'm hoping I didn't get into the restrictions they have for people visiting the park, but I'm assuming that at this point, if you're going to go visit the national park, there's probably things they don't allow you to do. I'm sure people can get in to do whatever they want somehow. I don't know how well regulated it is, but I didn't find anything about other people trying to trek this mountain in the middle of winter. It just sounds like a really bad idea.
Yeah,
And
anybody
then
who's listening, you really should go look up at a picture of these mountains that you're describing, because they're not just, they're very steep mountains. They're huge and they're steep and sheer and scary.
yeah, even in the dead of summer, they're scary. Lots of things summer to do that in the winter. Just, I don't know. And this is very scary. If Jed was tried to tell me he was going to go hike in the middle of winter, I'd be like, no. That would be the one time I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, you cannot do that. I don't think he would. People just, it's like Mount Everest. They just want to do it. They want to go up there and do it.
Yeah, he wouldn't do it. He's a dad. I'm a dad. I can't be doing this stuff. These guys are all young guys. They don't have families. They're adventurous. They think they're invincible.
Yeah, just heartbreaking. They were found, the 5 boys. These 2 Whitehead brothers were not. So getting into these lost and never found hikers and mountaineers. So another one was W. Cosby Bell, hiked up Mount Brown in the summer of 1933 and never hiked down. Another one was Dr. F.H. Lumley, a 27-year-old Ohio State University professor. He was last heard from on August 13th, 1934 at Goat Haunt Camp. This seems like it's north of Glacier. And if you look at the map, you can see how remote these areas are, because some of them they have roads, it looks like, and some of them it's like you don't even see roads. It's just those dotted lines. So I'm like, is that a road? Is that a hike? Because there's like different entrances to the park where you can take off and climb the mountain or go hiking or whatever. It's just over 1 million acres. It's huge. So one of these ones that's a famous one that I saw a lot of people go to is this Goat Haunt Camp. This is right on the south end of Waterton Lake, close to Canada. So it's quite a ways from the main kind of part of Glacier Park, the entrance. It's in the middle of nowhere, even now as we sit here. So back in 1934, it was rugged. It's still rugged. I don't know how much it's progressed since 1934. The search for him began on August 30th, 1934, which was from 13th to the 30th. That's quite a long time. So I don't know if he was on a longer trek and they're like, "Wait a minute, he never came back. What's going on?" He was never found either. Another one was David Paulson in 1963. He was a 21-year-old seasonal park employee, which is a common theme with like disappearances and deaths. So like even though I'm telling you about people that have never found, park employees that just go on a hike on their day off and die happens all the time. You can go, I'll give you the website for Glacier Park, and it's just like continually like it will say the park concession employee takes off on a hike on X date, didn't come back. They go find him. They fell off a cliff, found him dead, whatever. So this is a common thing. This person just was never found. So he was a 21-year-old seasonal park employee, climbed going to the Sun Mountain, middle of the park, but also very desolate, never returned, never found.
Which also, to point this out, that you can be extremely experienced or have very little experience, and nature will get you. So, I guess I just bring this up to say that just because somebody is a novice doesn't mean that they were intentionally, or it doesn't mean that they got into this trouble because they're a novice. Even on simple trails that are meant for novice hikers, you can run into danger. Just, I guess I say this to remind people to never let your guard down, regardless if you are experienced or not experienced and on a safe trail. If what I'm saying makes sense, because
No,
clearly this
100%.
person knows this park very well and knows the weather patterns and whatnot if they're there all the time, and it can happen to them too, which is awful.
And the sad thing about these missing and never found is because they were never found, we don't know what happened to them. We don't know if they fell, if they got lost. We have no idea. So yeah, and then this is another one that missing and never found. Matthew Trzozowski, 25-year-old concession employee at Glacier. This was in July of 1997. He left the men's dormitory at East Glacier at 11 a.m. He disappeared after embarking on just a solo day climb of Sinopah Mountain in the park's it's called the park's Two Medicine Valley. I don't know what that stands for, but that's what it's called. The search efforts were unsuccessful, and he was counted as among the long-term missing persons in the park's history. Another one is Larry Kimball. He was 40, from Dorr, Michigan. He came in 2003, was reported missing on June 20th by family who hadn't seen him for 6 weeks. That's a long time.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. So that probably didn't help him either, that 6 weeks later, even if he was finding his way to survive in the wild, if nobody's looking for him, he's probably going to die. His truck finally was found in the Fish Creek area of Glacier Park at the Rocky Point trailhead. On the dashboard was perched a park entrance receipt dated May 29th. So from May 29th, likely, to June 20th, he was just out there. So, yeah. He was
And
last seen.
also, you would assume that you take a buddy. Don't go by yourself, but
I was just going to say that.
then that's
Yeah.
also not true. Yeah. I think maybe some of these that go by themselves,
Mhm.
if they would have had a buddy, because what if you break your ankle or a leg? You're up. You're out of luck at that point. But if you had a partner with you, I feel like some of these people that went out on their own maybe would have been okay if they would have taken somebody with them. But who knows? Maybe not.
Yeah, you never know.
Maybe both would have died.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
mean, but
most
that's
avid hikers would recommend that you do not hike alone. People do it, of course, but yes, very much do not hike alone. And at the very least, always have an SOS GPS beacon, emergency SOS beacon. You should always have that. Even if you are a novice hiker on a well-paved trail in a national park, carry one with you. Even if you have somebody with you, you never know. Like Heather was saying, like a lot of these, we just don't even know what happened. It could have just been something simple. We just don't know.
yeah. Could have just got lost and couldn't find their way back. I
Easy
don't
to
know.
do. I've done that just in Quincy, Washington. There's lots of little trails. I was only lost for 15 minutes, but it was a scary feeling because a trail with weeds next to it it's hard to differentiate from another trail with weeds next to it, right? If you're a novice. So you just never know.
Yeah, and Heather, that goat haunt you were talking about, it is only accessible by boat or hiking trails. So it still is very rural.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing on the map, that this goat haunt, which is a famous, I don't know if it's famous, but a lot of people want to go visit it. So there must be something about it.
Yeah.
And so you can zoom in on the map and you can see where there's roads and then it's park entrance here, park entrance there. And then I couldn't find any of that to goat haunt. So you have to trek to it by hiking or by boat. So as you look at, if you zoom in on this park, you realize how much of it is still not accessible by just a road. So yeah, that's the common theme, is that outside of the Whitehead brothers, these people that are lost and never found went hiking by themselves. And a lot of it's these concession employees that are just like, oh, I just want to go explore and enjoy the beautiful scenery. I get it. And then they just don't come back for whatever reason. The most recent one, and I think I've got this one from you, Laura, you told me about this one, was Mark Sinclair is his name. He went missing on July 8th, 2019. He was a former Vermont environmental leader. So he was 66-year-old man from Whitefish, or a 66-year-old man that left Whitefish left the keys in his car unlocked and his dog in the vehicle, and then apparently went for a hike on the Highline Trail on July 8th at about 2:30 p.m. According to the park release, officials actively searched for Sinclair between July 9th and July 18th before moving the search to a limited continuous mode. The press release stated that the investigation will carry on in a reduced capacity. The park officials also said the area where the search was conducted is, in quotations, characterized by steep slopes with cliff faces frequently over 100 feet high. Officials closed the trail for over the weekend of July 13th because a grizzly bear was charging visitors. So there's speculation that possibly a grizzly bear ate him, but you'd think if that would happen, there would be some kind of remains, but maybe not. I don't know.
Not if he was really hungry and ate the whole thing.
Hmm.
Was the dog okay, though?
Yes,
Okay.
They found the dog alive and the car unlocked, thankfully. So I'm assuming the windows were down, hopefully, in July 8th. So I'm assuming he left his dog in there knowing that it's hot or whatever. Puppy is fine as far as I know.
You should have taken the puppy with him. Why do you
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, but I don't know.
Well, that's what I think was so concerning about it and why they thought he was definitely just doing something really quick and coming right back, because
Right.
as far as I remember, the dog was in there, but also his car keys were inside his vehicle, so it's not like somebody was trying to rob him or take
No.
things from him. So that's what's so curious about that story, because I apparently the wife had said, "This is not something he would have done. He would
Right.
not have left his dog." Clearly, that dog was his baby, that's why that dog was with him. He took the dog everywhere with him, and so it was very weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I think it was a grizzly. I'm gonna say grizzly. Just that's what everybody thinks of. I don't know if you guys know this, but the Europeans look at America and the bears in America are like even more scary to them. And Robert, my husband, had a coworker that came from Germany to visit America, and his wife was worried about him getting attacked by a bear because he was coming to America. Stay away from the forests, she told him. Like,
That's so funny, but also good advice.
Right.
Because
Well,
maybe you're gonna get to this, and I hope I don't kinda ruin it for you, but it
No, go
seems,
ahead.
Heather, you're hinting to, "There's all these attacks, but no deaths. All these attacks and no deaths." And here we have all these unknown deaths. So maybe
right.
whoever's coworker's wife is onto something here, that maybe there's a lot more deaths, we just don't know that's what's happening.
When it's not just bears, we have large
Yeah.
cats. We have
That's my
cougars.
biggest fear.
I know, they're
Kitty
equally
cats.
scary to me. It's
'Cause they
like
will
the
stalk you, and you don't even
shark
know.
thing in the Caribbean. I'm the Jaws era, so probably saw that movie way too young, so sharks are, like, super scary to me. If I see a shark and I'm snorkeling or whatever, I'm gonna just an automatic reaction is I'm gonna freak out a little bit.
I think that's a
So,
valid fear only because our bodies aren't meant to be in the water like that, and sharks' bodies are. So, like, how are you gonna outswim a shark?
yeah, same thing with bears, exactly. Same thing with bears, same thing
They
with
can
cougars.
climb
We're not
trees.
gonna outrun them. We're gonna be outmatched unless we have a gun. And even then, a grizzly bear, you better get that shot right the first time or you're going down. Don't piss them off by shooting them in a non-lethal part of its body.
Yeah, no kidding, I often wonder that too. You better be a good shot.
Yeah, yeah, I think that with Mr. Sinclair, from what I gathered, it seems like there's foul play. I don't know what that foul play consists of, or it could be a grizzly bear. We really don't know. Like Laura said, his wife was like, the fact that he wouldn't have taken his dog for the hike is very odd. He would have taken, if it was just like, I'm gonna check this out, he would have taken his dog to go explore with him.
Yeah, or take a picture or something. Like,
Something.
yeah,
My theory
who
is
is he meeting?
he
Yeah.
probably had to take a quick leak or something, and he didn't wanna have his dog while he's going pee, and
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, grizzly bear came and got him or something.
You never know.
Or humans, just as likely.
But if it were a human, I think that his wife would be like, "Okay, this person, he didn't get along." They do
Mm-hmm.
in-depth research in relationships and money and finances. I feel like if it was foul play, that if we were hearing this story, those things would have been mentioned. I don't know, I feel like it has to be more nature related.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would assume so.
I would
Yeah, and
assume.
then one of the press releases I found said that the Highline Trail poses unique challenges when bears frequent the area because there's often very little space for hikers to move aside if a bear comes through because there's these big high cliffs. So if a bear comes through, you're like, okay, either I fight the bear or I jump off this cliff where I'm going to die. So,
You're
Oh,
trapped,
yeah,
great,
basically.
now I'm gonna have nightmares. Thanks.
yeah.
Oh,
So, like, just that's if you look at some of the pictures, you'll see how that could be a problem where you're way up high on this trail and it's just a sheer cliff down. And so if you came, like, even if you came across people, you're like, oh God, how do we get around each other? It would be hard to just get around people. If a bear comes, like, those things are huge, especially grizzly bears. You're done. And the last one that's not a lost and never found, it was just 4 years later, was Yi Jianhua, disappeared above Avalanche Lake in 2008. His remains were not found until 4 years later, likely from elements or
Avalanche
something.
Lake, huh?
Yeah.
So,
I wonder what happened. I don't, yeah, that's just, they didn't find him until 4 years later. And at that point, it's hard to determine what happened.
have either of you ever heard any stories about Dyatlov in Russia?
No.
There's been a lot of podcasts and documentaries on it already. So, probably wouldn't do it, but there's a lot of conspiracies around it. And it was like very experienced hikers went up through this pass and they all died and they found their bodies and it was just very mysterious and everybody thinks it was just an avalanche like the experts. I shouldn't say everybody, but there's a lot of conspiracies like even Yeti, etc. and stuff
Oh,
like that.
so yeah.
But it was probably just an avalanche.
Right. Our imaginations get the best of us.
Right.
And yeah, I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to look into it just out of curiosity. While the Whitehead brothers' disappearance remains the most mysterious, Glacier Park's wild vastness makes it one of the last places where one can become lost and never found. So there is that caveat to Glacier Park.
Some people are looking for that. Let's be real. They're okay with that. And if they don't make it, they're okay with that too because they're doing what they love.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, it's all in the individual. So yeah, this is where I get into the common occurrences at the website that I visit. Let me tell you what it's called. So Glacier National Park Incident Reports is the website, and it has reports starting from 1989 to 2025. And I'm sure it'll update this year too as things happen. So it doesn't have far back as the 1900s, what I was talking about. So that's why I wanted to cover those areas, but it does include some of the ones I mentioned. So you'll see, oh, the search started, and then no updates on the person being found because they weren't found. So the common occurrences that I saw on this website as I'm scrolling through it and probably getting more anxious and thinking I'll never go is grizzly bear attacks in mountain lions, or otherwise known as cougars. So it's a very common occurrence. You'll see 2 hikers, grizzly attack, take it to the hospital. It happens a lot. And then
Have they found people that have died from either bear or big cat attacks? Have they actually found people that have died? You say attacks and...
Yeah, these are not people dying. That's what I'm saying, is they talk about, like, you'll see these glacier or national parks saying, oh, we've only had 1 bear attack that ended in a death. But they don't talk about the hundreds of attacks by bears where they don't die.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a logic leap, or it's not a huge leap to think a lot of these people that are missing and never found were probably killed by grizzlies or mountain lions.
Yeah,
just because if there's that many attacks and not that many deaths that we know of, I don't know, just makes sense that at least a large portion of some of those that are just never found were possibly eaten.
Maybe. I think with a cougar, it's less likely, only because it's going to be harder for a cougar to drag a big human body, where I think a grizzly bear could do that, because they're going to, you can't find the body, and I don't know, I should research this before assuming this, but I'm assuming grizzlies will, take the body and drag it somewhere before they eat it.
But cats will eat on it for a while till it's eaten in place. They don't need to drag it necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, anything's possible. If they don't find the body, could be that.
Bones are harder to find than a body.
I would assume they would both drag them just to get away from the high traffic trail or an area where humans are. Like, even if it is a more remote area, that mountain lion or bear is going to think this is where humans are. Let's drag it away from
if they were on trails, like some of these
even
guys
if they weren't
probably
on a trail, I think that a cat or a bear wouldn't be able to fully understand, oh, this is a human trail. But if they see a human there, they're like, oh, there may be other humans. Let's kind of get away from this area.
Yeah, I think they're both strong enough to do it. I think
Definitely,
they both would
I think so.
Yeah.
Depending on the size of the human.
That's very scary. So yeah, that was a common occurrence I saw, and then lots of falls to their death while hiking. They'd find bodies of missing hikers. There's drownings in lakes. There was a fall down a waterfall, and then one injured hiker by a falling boulder. So a rock could fall on you, so beware. Some interesting encounters or incidents that I saw on this website was one, what you guys were just talking about, making sure you shoot to kill when it comes to a bear. So on July 29th, 2014, at the Glacier National Park, the title for this was Hiker Shoots Bear on Park Trail, which I thought was funny. A 57-year-old Texas man, I was like, of course, hiking alone on Mount Brown Lookout Trail. When a bear charged him from below the trail, the man used his bear spray on him and then shot the bear with 1 round from a handgun he was carrying. Indications are that he did hit the bear, which then ran away. The hiker then headed back to the trailhead, encountering a volunteer backcountry ranger on the trail along the way. The volunteer notified park dispatch of the incident. Rangers immediately closed the trail and began an investigation. They also staffed the trailhead in order to advise other visitors what had happened. Rangers and bear specialists began a search for the bear, which may be either a grizzly or a black bear. The bear had not been found, and the investigation continued, and they closed the trail. And then I couldn't find any follow-up if they ever found the bear or anything. No idea. There wasn't any more follow-up. Because a lot of times if you go on this website, you'll go down and you can read through, and they'll later on, a month later or a couple days later, they'll be like, oh, hiker found, blah, 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 blah. But I couldn't find any follow-up on this bear. So the bear just might have ran somewhere and died, and they never found it. Or
Are you gonna bring up anything about Travis Kaufman?
No.
Or Kaufman? The guy I sent you an article on? I sent it to you because I thought maybe you would. Maybe this didn't happen this was in Colorado, so not in Glacier National Park, but just along the lines of defending yourself from an animal. This guy suffocated a mountain lion.
Oh, yes, I did read that article.
Choked this mountain lion out. Granted, it was like a younger mountain lion. It wasn't full grown. But man, stay on that guy's good side. He can defend himself.
What else? It's kind of like the same story, which again, this is not Glacier National Park. There was these women that went mountain biking. I think there was like 4 of them, maybe 3. I can't remember. And They encountered a mountain lion and it attacked one of the women. It's had its jaw on the woman's head. And see, these women were like doing whatever. They were picking up rocks, dropping it on the cat to try to get this cat off their friend. They're just trying everything. And then finally, one of them put their mountain bike on top of the cat and just sat on it. And eventually they were able to pry this woman off of the cat with the combination of the rock dropping and putting the bike and sitting on the cat so it couldn't move till they could get help. And the woman that got mauled by the mountain lion, she survived. And then, of course, they killed the mountain lion and figured, I think it had some kind of disease, which a lot of the times these mountain lion attacks are because the cat's diseased and hungry and just not, its normal self, of course. And so this lady was wearing earrings and they found the earring in its stomach and gave it back to her. So,
Gosh, that's
yeah.
morbid.
That's okay. You can keep it. It's okay.
I feel like those things might be bad luck.
Yeah, I'm totally under explaining this story because the women all each talk about how they're trying to get this. The woman that had the cat's head on her, I remember reading, I put my hand inside of its mouth to try to pry it off me. I just was trying to get it off of me. Could you imagine putting your hand in the cougar's mouth that's on your head and trying to pry the women? The way the women tell this story is just, it's amazing.
I don't want to imagine that. That's scary. Right.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I remember this story, and at one point the mountain lion lets go of her and attacks one of the other women and then goes back to her. It was like mentally messed up. This lion wasn't.
Yeah, it was. But their final
stuff,
once they got it off of everybody and anybody, the biggest thing was the lady had to sit on the bike as it's on this cougar, hoping that it stays.
That's wild.
Yeah, while the others got help or got a ranger there or whatever.
That's some quick thinking.
1, 2, 3.
Just luckily they had bikes,
Yeah, no kidding.
They weren't just hikers; they were mountain bikers.
That was lucky.
So yeah, I'm totally underselling that story. It's like when I read the article, and then there's even an interview of the woman that got the worst of the attack with the earring situation, and yeah, she's amazing. Then they weren't young women, not saying that they're not in shape, but these were older women going on mountain bike ride. They're bad Bettys for sure. Oh, sorry. So back to Glacier Park, some interesting incidents that I found looking at this website, and I'm probably missing a ton. These are just the ones that I could have looked at this for hours. It spans from 1989 to 2025. So I'm sure I missed some other crazy incidents that happened there. But one of the ones that stood out was another one, which was in 2013 in July, 3 visitors hit by lightning. Not one, but 3 visitors, a man and a woman, each 23 years old, an 11-year-old child. And he wasn't related to them. He was just with them on a hike. Were struck by lightning late on a Wednesday afternoon as they were hiking on St. Mary Falls Trail on the east side of the park. Luckily, fellow hikers and bystanders rushed to the scene to perform life-saving CPR, which successfully revived the victims. The park then received a dispatch call from a ranger reporting the incident around 4:30 p.m. Bystanders at the scene just did the CPR while rangers came. The child was airlifted to Kalispell via the Glacier County ambulance, transported the 2 adults. So he was airlifted, and then the 2 adults went by ground, is what we call it, by an ambulance to the hospital. And then they were in serious condition but stable at the intensive care unit at the Kalispell Regional Medical Center. They were in the hospital for many days, but they did survive. So where St. Mary's Trail is located about 10 miles west of the St. Mary entrance station on the Going to the Sun Road, it's a very short and popular hike. So yeah, I just thought that was crazy. Not 1, but 3 people struck by lightning. What are the chances?
Way to go to that Good Samaritan for not only knowing CPR, but performing CPR. I'm a huge advocate for people knowing CPR. I think personally, CPR should be taught in our schools. For 2 years, kids need to learn CPR. Even if, especially so many high school kids are like babysitters, they need to be CPR trained if you're caring for young ones. But
that's our standard requirement of when we have somebody come watch Oleana is that they have CPR training.
100%. Everybody should know CPR. There shouldn't be a person in the United States that can't perform CPR, just basic compressions.
That's the first thing you do. It used to be ABC, but now it's compressions airway breathing. So it's CAB. So yeah, the first thing you do before you even give a breath is you start doing, they don't have a pulse, no breathing, you start compressions first. Which a lot of people don't know that. So that's the other thing, is even if you're CPR trained, if you haven't been CPR trained for the last 10 years, it's changed. So there's my little tidbit. And maybe because who knows, I haven't taken CPR for a few years. Maybe it's changed again. It changes, it seems like, all the time, which is great. It's for the better. It's done by studies, and the studies revealed that compressions actually are better because whatever oxygen you have, you're pumping to the brain. You do that first, then you do breaths, back to compressions until somebody survives and can either help you or get a stable airway. So anyways, yeah, I thought that was, yeah, I think that's correct, Laura. Is like, I think these people probably wouldn't have survived if there wasn't somebody that was close by that could start the CPR.
But at the same time, hiking is for dead people. And so you don't have to only worry about bears falling to your death, freezing to death, big cats. You could also just be struck by lightning. So
right, the likelihood is pretty
I
rare.
don't care. Seriously. I'm not going hiking.
Yeah, there's a lot of storms in Montana. You'll be, it's all of a sudden it's just pouring torrential rains and lightning and thunder. It's crazy. Seen it a lot. I've drove through the storms before, so I know. There's been one time I remember going to just Missoula for Blake had a tournament, and it was pouring rain so bad that I had to pull over until it calmed down because I couldn't see where I was going. And as fast as it came is as fast as it went. It's kind of like in North Dakota, Lora, when I visited, and there was they had category 1 winds in North Dakota when I went and visited Lora a couple weeks. And it was like, I looked out the window. If I wouldn't have known I was in North Dakota, I would have thought I was in Florida during a hurricane because it was just crazy.
Yep. That's the one time we've had to pull over, is in North Dakota as well, because it was raining so hard that everybody had to pull over. Everybody on the road pulled over. You could not drive in it.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened when I was in Missoula. But like in North Dakota, these were 80-mile-an-hour winds. Like there's no way you could have drove in that with the wind. I know. I'm so glad I was indoors. But as fast as it was, it lasted for maybe 15, 20 minutes. As fast as it came is as fast as it went. And in just that short of time, there was a power outage for 11 hours, if I remember right.
No, they predicted that it was going to be out for 11.
Yeah, it was only like 4
Everybody's
hours.
power came back about midnight.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 hours without power, if I remember right. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. They predicted it, and then it came back a lot sooner. But yeah, in just 20 minutes, like the damage was there. Luckily, there's not a lot of trees in North Dakota. Like when we have windstorms like that in Washington, it's like you'll have a week or two without power, and power lines are down and trees are everywhere. Houses have been demolished by trees. So it just depends on where you live and what kind of wind, that damage that wind and rain can do to the local area. Anyhow, so a more recent issue, which just happened on July 11th, 2026 in Glacier National Park. What I've been talking about, a bear incident. So on May 28th, the 32-year-old was hiking about 3.5 miles into the Grinnell Glacier Trail when they had a surprise encounter with a bear near Lake Josephine. Rushing water nearby may have made it difficult for the 2 hikers. I guess there was 2 hikers and one of them got attacked to hear the bear and then the bear to hear them. The bear charged the visitor, breaking their arm, and then afterward the bear left. Nearby hikers provided first aid. Again, thank goodness for nearby hikers and emergency support. The hiker was transported by helicopter to the local medical center in Kalispell. And then the Grinnell Glacier Trail and North Shore Josephine Lake Trail were closed. At the time that I looked at this, which was just last week, it said currently closed. I'm assuming it's probably back open by now. It was the second bear incident in Glacier in May, with the previous individual dying due to injuries sustained in the incident, and that was on 5/13/2026. Yeah. So again, we're not talking about these bear incidents enough. They had 2 in May. So it happens more often. If you go look at this website, bring your spray, and it sounds like you need a gun too, even if you're not a gun person, but you better be equipped with some stuff that's going to get that bear to go away. Anyways, so how about we have a fun fact? Do you guys want a fun fact after all this death injury? I thought this was really interesting, and I did not know this. So in 1993 in June, I found when I was scrolling through this, they had this special event called commercial filming. And I'm like, what was this about? So portions of the feature film for Beethoven the second film for Beethoven, was filmed in the park on June 7th, 1993. This was the sequel to the first Beethoven. You guys have all seen that, right? With the dog, the
Yes.
St. Bernard. So it wasn't the first one, but the second one they filmed in Glacier National Park. The permit was issued. They did the filming, and it kind of said, it warned everybody like, hey, this is what we're doing, and they had to pay a fee to do it. Then let's see, I think on June 25th, 1993, they did more filming for Beethoven II. And so if you watch that movie again, you'll have to look for areas that look like it was in a national park, which would have been in Glacier National Park. And then the director and producers for that allowed extensive behind-the-scenes access for the public, media, and employees. So countless visitors had their picture taken with Beethoven, the dog. The St. Bernard's name is actually Chris. And the scores of puppies on hand throughout the filming. So if you watch Beethoven II, it's about having puppies, and so people got to see it. And I thought that was really cool that even when they were filming, which is probably chaotic with dogs especially, and in a national park, that they let visitors, media, and employees come see Beethoven and the puppies. So I thought that was really cute. All park expenses for oversight management of the filming was recovered through the commercial filming agreement. So when they came into the national park, that they paid for all the fees and costs and maybe losses that they had for filming, because I'm sure you have to corridor off a certain area to do the filming so it's not distracted by other individuals. So yeah, I just wanted to end with that cute little fun fact out of all the tragedies I've just talked about. And yeah,
St. Bernards are just so cool looking, such neat animals. Just recently, me and my littlest, she's 6, we went to the veterinarian and somebody had a St. Bernard there at the vet clinic, and my daughter's a huge animal lover, and she sees this big, giant dog, and man, was that so exciting, and he was just this big, giant, gentle giant, so sweet, and as soon as he saw her, was completely in love with her, cute little girl, but then she just for a whole week, she told me she wants a St. Bernard puppy, and I was like, "Those things are not puppies, honey. Those things are like a horse."
yeah, they're big. And if you
Where are we
watch
gonna put it?
Beethoven, I don't know if it's true without St. Bernards, but a lot of drool. Just a
This
lot of
one
drool.
didn't seem to have a lot of drool, but he was also in an air-conditioned building, sitting chill, so, yeah, he was beautiful, and he was sweet, and by the time we got done and we were walking out, he was laying down and his 2 front paws were crossed, and I was like, "Oh, he's a gentleman." He's so cute.
Yeah, they are beautiful dogs. Really love them.
They
But
are.
yeah, that's all I have. It's probably a long one, so didn't
Yes.
expect it to go that long. Leave it to me.
But also and I do wanna mention, because I also watch a lot of YouTube about hiking, I'm fascinated by national parks as well. We covered a huge span of time during this podcast, so it sounds like a lot of deaths in national parks, but don't be afraid to go hiking. Just go prepared. Most people come out alive, obviously. Tons of people, tons of traffic in national parks, but just be careful. Don't let it stop you from living.
Oh yeah, 100%. If anybody is a hiker that listens to this, they probably might roll their eyes at me, and I totally agree. But just more be prepared, not don't do it. Just be prepared for bears. Be
Me and
prepared
Heather are
for.
gonna go to a national park this summer, and we're gonna
Mhm.
enjoy ourselves, and it's gonna be fun, but we're also gonna prepare.
Yeah,
Right.
and you're not going to go alone, and you're going to be prepared. You're going to have the precautionary items that you should have.
We're gonna have too much water, we're gonna have too many
Yeah,
snacks, we're gonna stay on the trail,
you're going to
we're
be
gonna have bear
going
mace.
slow because you have babies along with you.
They'll be very short hikes, I'm sure. They'll
Yes, we're gonna
be,
tell people where we're going, we're gonna say when we're gonna get back,
yeah,
all the things,
some balances in. And,
and we're gonna have fun.
exactly, have fun. Don't be, if you're scared and it's not something you'd want to do, then totally get it. Don't do it. Don't be forced to do it either. Yeah, and crazy thing is I forgot to mention this. I can't remember which hike Jed's dad and so it was Jed's dad, his brother, and a cousin or something in the family. I may have told you this, Rebecca and or Laura. And this was years ago. So this had to have been around either 19 or 2020. I don't remember. I always do it with COVID. I think it was before COVID. So I think only it was only one or two. So Jed and I were heading over to the west side, I think just to visit friends summertime. And Jed's dad had planned a week hike with his brother and his cousin that they'd never hiked with before. So Jed's dad and his brother had gone on lots and lots of hikes with each other in all kinds of mountains. And I think they were somewhere in, I want to say California, but I could be wrong. It could have been North Cascades. I can't remember where they were doing the hike. Doesn't matter. So we get a call where I think we're at Vantage taking a break. We have a 1-year-old getting snacks or whatever. And Jed gets a call, I believe, from his mom or from his dad. It's a missed call. And he's going to call him back. And he's like, oh, shoot, it's early to hear from my dad because he's not supposed to be back from his hike for another few days. 1, Jed's worried. And then 2, that he's getting a call. So I don't know if he calls back his dad, doesn't get an answer, or calls back his mom and then does get an answer. Anyways, we find out that on the hike, the cousin kind of sat down and was not feeling well, had a heart attack, died, and then just fell off the cliff down below while they're in the midst of their hike.
Goodness.
Yeah. So Jed's dad went down and was with the cousin while his brother left to go get help. So that's one of the deaths I can think of that happened in our family, is where it had nothing to do with danger or elements. The guy just had a heart attack and fell off.
Earlier on, when you were talking about incidents, that was what was running through my mind. I was like, it could be some of these are just like somebody had a heart attack and yeah, their bodies are gone because animals ate them. It's clearly it happens, especially
Exertion.
yeah, I was just gonna say that, Rebecca.
Yeah. A few years down the road, if I was gonna go on a hike like what they're doing, I definitely it could happen to me. I could
Happened
have
to
a heart
anybody.
attack and die. It happens in your even when you're in your 40s and 50s, it does happen to some people.
Yeah, I think they were older. Pretty sure they were in their 70s when they were doing this hike, which even like Jed's dad's in very good shape. He's in his 80s now. He doesn't do the hikes anymore, but at the time, this is 7 years ago, he was in his late 70s and he's doing these hikes. So again, they didn't go by themselves. Luckily, their cousin had people with them, so Jed's dad was able to stay with him, and then his brother was able to go get help. So the family's able to have closure, even though it was an unexpected death. At least they know where he's at. And I remember Jed's parents went over there, I think, for this funeral. I may be getting my stories mixed up, but it was just an interesting thing. I think they went over to the East Coast. Jed's parents went to the East Coast to this funeral or another funeral. I can't remember, but it was in very close time of this hiking incident. And then Jed's parents get in a huge car accident over on the East Coast and have to go in the hospital, in rehab, all the way on the other side of the country from us. So that was like an interesting couple years. I remember thinking, oh my goodness, we got to stop having tragedies in this family. But his parents ended up making it back and it all worked out. They were older, in their late 70s, and you worry when things like that happen. But anyhow, yeah, that was just the kind of hiking story that I have in Jed's family, at least, that, yeah, anything can happen. Anything can happen.
I've been on hikes where I felt like I was gonna die and maybe wanted to die.
Yeah.
It was like a 2-mile hike, you guys. It was strenuous.
It actually was only like 2 miles, but it was uphill the entire
Oh,
half
yeah.
the way.
Hills
Coming
kill
back
you.
down. It
Hills, yeah.
was in the Smoky Mountains too. There's like this vantage point that you can hike up to, and it's only a mile, and it's moderate. Baloney, it's moderate. It was hard, and we weren't the only ones. There was like young people, like taking breaks. There's benches along the whole way because you're just going up the entire time. And there was people like, it's the elevation. We lived in Colorado, so we know what elevation sickness feels like. It was not that. It was just a hard hike.
Yeah, when it's straight up, it's always worse. Yeah, even if it's just a mile, if you're doing 1,000 feet in 1 mile, that's a hard hike. So yeah, that's all I had. So is it the norm to go hiking in national parks? Absolutely. And it should be the norm, but make sure you're prepared.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, and thank you everybody for joining us today.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.